Okay, guys, we begin here with our quick review of Eukarya. So I just thought I'd start back here again, okay, with this diagram and just show you that this is what your LMS quiz is going to be on. It's going to be on Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia because they follow under the domain Eukarya. Okay, so going way back to this, keep this in mind as you progress through biology. You've got bacteria and archaea here with one kingdom each, and you've got Eukarya with Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. We did this quiz already. This is our quiz on Thursday and Friday. All right. For really simple points on them, you do have some things under here under each type of kingdom. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with the information there. It's just kind of limited. So that takes us to Protista. So this is the note that you would be looking at first, okay? I know that this is an open book quiz, so I'm not going to do a great review with you. I'm just going to tell you what it is that you're going to be tested on. So keep in mind, protists are eukaryotes, and the most important points are usually at the top, okay? So this is what distinguishes them from other kingdoms. They are unicellular. Almost all of them are unicellular. Okay, so that makes them different. They obtain energy in a variety of ways. These are the ways. So I could ask you about these ways here, that how a protist obtains its energy. And then, of course, what you want to do is be familiar with, which means read the notes over. Be familiar with the types of protists that we have. So we have fungus-like protists, okay? And then we entered plant-like protists. Be familiar with the fact that these guys photosynthesize, that's why they're plant-like. And then just, again, familiarize yourself with their names here, okay? So that when it comes time, that you know where to find these answers. And then you have your algae, okay? Red, brown, green algae. And remember, these guys are the closest relative to plants, okay? So we believe that plants came from green algae. And then you have your animal-like protists. Animal-like protists are classified according to how they move. And so you're going to find all those different points as you go through this note. So this note here is important for you for your LMS quiz. The next note that you want to see is the kingdom fungi note. So the kingdom fungi note starts with what makes fungi different than every other kingdom. So they are heterotrophs. Keep that in mind. They will have cell walls, but they are heterotrophic. They eat. They're eukaryotes like every other kingdom that we are studying on this LMS quiz, and they absorb food through these hyphae. So hyphae is something different for fungus. So they can use the hyphae to reproduce sexually, and they can use the hyphae, and they have to use the hyphae to consume, okay? And their cell walls are not made of cellulose, they are made of chitin. So they have cell walls and they're made of chitin. And then it just continues, talks to you about spores. Okay, spores are an important concept. And then we go through different types of reproduction. So if the fungus is just splitting into two and that you're making identical types of fungi, you've got budding, okay? And that's asexual. Fragmentation is also asexual. This is an example of a yeast. And then sexual reproduction involves the formation of spores. All right, and then I went through different kinds of fungus with you, and you can read through that. Remember that sometimes you get symbiotic relationships between fungus and algae, and that's called a lichen. All right, and then penicillin is made from penicillium, the fungus that eats bacteria. Then we went into animalia, and I gave you 3 days on animalia. You watched a video that gave you specific examples of different organisms. And then this note here really goes through for you the different types of phylum. So that's the benefit of having this note. Keep in mind this, okay, and you might want to write this down. Animals are multicellular. They are eukaryotic. They do not have cell walls. They are heterotrophs, which means they have to consume, okay? So that's the thing lacking from the top of the page here. This is the only kingdom where I don't give you that information. I think there's another note in the booklet, but, oh, you didn't get a booklet this semester for this unit. So there's another old note that I have that gives you that information. So you have it now. Definitely there's going to be a focus on the different phylum, okay, and what some have and what some don't. what characteristics they have, what characteristics they don't have, who's flat, who's not, who has what body shapes they have, endoderm, ectoderm, mesoderm. Okay, those are terms that you want to be familiar with from the homework. And they're also in this note as well. And then protostomes and deuterostomes also. So if you did your animal homework, you want to have that in front of you also for this quiz. Okay, and then moving forward, when we leave Animalia, okay, then we went into Plantae. This was a very long note and a lesson, and I loaded the wrong one, so I apologize. I got that information from Rachel. Thank you, Rachel, for letting me know that I put the wrong note up, and I apologize for doing that. I have so many notes I'm making and video lessons I'm making every day, so sometimes I've given you the wrong ones, and just let me know right away. I really appreciate that. So, Kingdom Plantae, here are your distinguishing characteristics, okay? So, plants are eukaryotic, they are multicellular, okay? So, keep that in mind. They're all eukaryotes. Everything that we're doing on this LMS quiz is a eukaryote. They are multicellular, okay? They are autotrophs, which means they can make their own food. How do they make their own food? They contain these things called plastids. So, they contain different pigments in an organelle. And so if you've got chloroplast, you've got chlorophyll, that's green. If you've got chromoplast, you've got chromophil, that could be orange, red, or yellow. And leucoplasts are white. These guys capture sunlight and turn sunlight into chemical food. All right? And then we go through the fact that this is another important characteristic with plants. They have cell walls made of cellulose. All right? And plants can reproduce sexually and asexually. So keep that in mind. And I've already mentioned that they came from green algae. That's the hypothesis. And then we go through adaptations, and we went through the different types of plants. So 4 different types of categorizations there with the plants. You need to go over those, okay? I would suggest reading this note over. If you've listened to the video lesson, then hearing this information also helps, obviously. Remember what xylem and phloem are? That xylem and phloem means that you have vascular tissue. So as soon as a plant has vascular tissue, it can grow tall. So non-vascular plants are one category of plants. These guys don't get very tall at all. These are your mosses, they're bryophytes. And then once we get into vascular plants have the advantage of being able to grow off of the ground because they have vascular tissue, which is the xylem and the phloem. Okay, and I'm going to get back to this in a minute. And then I gave you more information on seedless plants versus plants with seeds. Okay, so the categorizations just continue. And gymnosperms, and then gymnosperms versus angiosperms. And angiosperms can then be broken down into 2 more categories. Angiosperms are flowering plants. As soon as you see a flower, you know the plant is reproducing sexually. Okay, why? Because there are male and female parts on that plant. All right. The seed, you went through this, you have that information, have it handy. Okay, and then the plant, the flower, we labeled the flower. So there are male parts of the flower and female parts of the flower. And when you see a flower, that means automatically that plant is reproducing sexually because it has gametes coming from here that need to land in here or into the ovule of another flower. All right. And I went through monocots versus dicots. So again, this is an important thing. Keep this for the plant unit. So we have all plants. This is the categorization of plants. So where we went through protists, and I said there, you've got animal-like, fungus-like, and plant-like protists. This is how we categorize plants. So we have plants. They can be vascular or non-vascular. Okay, very few plants are non-vascular. And then vascular plants are broken down into plants with seeds or seedless. Okay, and so we studied all of these. And then when you get your plants with seeds, you get your angiosperms and your gymnosperms. These both produce seeds, clearly, because they're under the seed category. These guys have naked seeds. You can get male and female cones, okay, but they don't produce flowers. So you're not going to get your evergreen trees producing flowers. They produce cones. And then your angiosperms produce flowers, and they have a protected seed. And you've got the monocots and dicots. And then this brings us to the last categorization there of monocots and dicots. How are monocots different than dicots? All right? And that's your comprehensive look at what I'm going to be asking you on your LMS quiz.